Hello and welcome to the Stitch Together podcast. My name is Chrissy, I'm your host. Today's date is Wednesday the 10th of August 2016 and this is episode 30. I did consider starting a whole new season of episodes, but I figured it's just easier if I just carry on with the numbering I had before. If you've not watched the podcast before and this is your first one, you won't understand what I'm talking about when I say it's been a very, very long time since I last recorded, and I have huge, huge amounts of regret from it taking so long for me to record again, and all I can do is apologise, in particular because of the craft along that happened at the beginning of the year that I never ever issued the prizes for, and I really am sorry about that. And with no further ado, I think I'll get on with that and then I'll explain what's been going on and why the huge break. So the self-indulgent craft along started on Boxing Day and ran through till the end of February, and there were 3 prizes that were drawn, and they were drawn from the completed prizes in the FO thread. And I'm going to show you the prizes again because it's been so long, and these were all kindly donated, so I wanted to share them with you again. This is a project bag from Knit and Stitch Bits, and I love this bag. I love the fact that it's got these sort of metallic gold bits in it, and it's got a lovely spotty lining. It's beautiful. It's beautifully made. It's got a nice boxed base. It's got some nice batting to give it some sort of firmness, keeps it more robust, and it was very kindly donated by the proprietor of Knit and Stitch Bits. And I checked on Etsy and she's currently taking a bit of a break. I don't know if it's a holiday or what, but I would recommend going and sort of putting a let me know when they come back option on the shop, because the bags are really well made, they're really beautiful, and they're incredibly low priced. It's very, very reasonably priced for what you're getting. So the winner of this lovely bag is Model Widow, who is Jane from Kent in the UK. So Jane, let me know what your address is and I'll pop this in the post to you. Hope you'll enjoy that a lot. I've got a couple of bags from Knit and Stitch Bits and I'm very pleased with them. The second prize is this beautiful skein of yarn, which was donated by the Wool Barn, and it's alpaca sock grey in the denim colourway, and it's a 4-ply fingering weight yarn, and it's 70% natural light grey baby alpaca, 20% silk and 10% cashmere. And it is delicious to work with. In fact, I have a project to show you that I worked in this exact yarn, and it's really, really beautiful to work with. And the very, very lucky winner of this is CG Knits, who is CG, and her details on Ravelry say she is from the South, USA. So CG, get in touch. It's nice to see prizes go to people who take part on the forums, so it's nice that CG is going to get that, so I'm really pleased for her. And the last prize was donated by a really kind viewer, and it's from the Uncommon Thread, and it's silky merino fingering, which is 75% superwash merino and 25% mulberry silk, and it's a fingering weight, and it's in the it's in the fern colourway, and the winner of that is Hazy Summers, who is another person who's joined in talking on the Ravelry boards a few times, and that's Hazel from Ghana. So Hazel, get in touch with me and let me know where you want it posting to, because I know you are sometimes in different places, so let me know and I'll get that in the post to you. So congratulations to those 3 people. I am so sorry it took so long to get in touch with you and let you know. I kept putting it off and thinking when I record I'll announce it like I always do, and I kept thinking, well, maybe I should just draw and announce it on the forums, but I really like announcing prizes in an episode, and so what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave it a week from releasing the episode to give you chance to see it and be nicely surprised. And if I don't hear from you in that time, I will then get in touch with you directly on Ravelry, because it's been such a long time since you actually took part in the craft along, and you may have stopped subscribing to the podcast. So I just wanted to give you a chance to have a look, and if you don't, I'll let you know, because it's really been too long. I shouldn't have left it this late. And I promise it won't happen again for future craft alongs, spin alongs, knit alongs. If ever I have to take a break of longer than a month, I will just draw and announce it on Ravelry and get in touch with people directly, because it's not fair. The reason I've not been recording is I did mention it on the Ravelry boards, so if you were very curious, you could have gone and found out. But my dad became quite ill at the beginning of the year, and it took a while for tests and things to be done, and unfortunately he's been diagnosed with lung cancer. And he had cancer a few years ago, and he recovered really well from that, but unfortunately it's the same cancer that's moved from his throat down to his lungs, and sadly he's not going to get better from this. And initially there was an awful lot of stress and worry and travelling and phone calls and just basically real difficult times. And unfortunately my condition is made worse when I'm under stress, which means that I have increased levels of pain. So as well as being stressed, I'm trying to deal with stuff from a distance, because unfortunately neither my brother nor myself live in the same city as my dad. So my brother, bless him, was having to do an awful lot of driving. It just meant that as well as dealing with all that, I was not well. My pain levels are up, my sleep levels are down, and I've not been engaging very much in the outside world, and that's really not a healthy way to go, unfortunately. It's very, very easy to retreat into myself when I get stressed. It's a habit I started as a child, when I used to go and bury myself in a book to ignore the outside world when I was unhappy. And sadly I still do that, which is great as a short-term coping mechanism, but it's not great long-term, and that's what this has become. I've just been hiding in fiction and spinning. Spinning has been a great retreat, but I've not really been seeing any friends outside of going to Spinning Guild once a month, and I've not really been chatting to any of my online friends either, and I'm really sorry about that, and I have really missed everyone. And this is me starting to record again and making concerted effort to engage with the outside world again, because I can't carry on the way I'm doing. It's not a long-term solution, like I say. And my dad's doing okay at the moment. We've got systems in place for him and his wife to cope, and thank goodness for Macmillan nurses, who have been fantastic and helpful and have been an amazing resource for my dad and his wife, and taken a great deal of pressure off the rest of the family, who are all a long way away. And I think I might have to do something to raise some money for Macmillan, because they were invaluable last time Dad was sick as well. So if you are unaware of Macmillan, because you're outside the UK, Macmillan is a charity for cancer sufferers and their families, and they provide nurses who deal one-on-one with a cancer patient and provide them with care and arranging social care, arranging equipment. They help make decisions on what's going to happen in the long term with their care, and they're basically incredible, and it's all provided for by charity. And they help with things like will making services and just basically everything that you could possibly need after a cancer diagnosis. So they've been an absolute treasure for our family, essentially. So I think I might have to try and do some raising money for it. My brother did a run and tried to raise some money that way, but I can't do that. So maybe I'll have to do a pattern sale, or maybe sell off some of my shawls, because I have mountains of them, as you know. Like I say, the thing I've been doing other than reading is spinning. And in the new year, I went to my first spinning guild meeting, the Weavers, Spinners and Dyers Guild of Leicestershire. And I was really nervous, and I walked in the door and there were three people I knew, two pretty well, and it was a complete surprise that I knew people in the guild. And the guild's really big, it's probably about 40 people there, and it's an amazing place, and the members are fantastic. They're a wealth of information and incredibly friendly, and going once a month has been the perfect outlet for me to get out the house, because I can just about manage once a month even. And one of the sessions was to test drive people's spinning wheels, and I've never used a wheel because I always thought I couldn't use a wheel. And my new friends were like, go on, give it a go, you ought to try it, because there were lots of different wheels, and they were all saying, you might find a wheel you can manage with, you ought to try it. So I tried, I think, 3 different wheels, and I absolutely fell in love with spinning on a wheel. I absolutely loved it, and I was surprised at how well I was able to manage it physically. So I sort of went away from this, and I was thinking long and hard, and sort of thinking, you know what, I really would like to get a wheel, and started to think about how I was going to save up for it. And about a month later, it was coming up to my birthday, and my lovely, lovely partner basically said, would you like a wheel for your birthday? And I was like, yes, please. Just bit his hand off, because he knew that spinning was pretty much the thing keeping me sane at that point, because it was right at the difficult time when it was all sort of happening fast. Things were happening really quickly at that point, and he knew I was doing a lot of spinning and that I was very, very interested in getting a wheel. So luckily we found a wheel which was from Wigan Wools, and it was an ex-display model. So I got a chunk of money off it, and I had some savings, and my partner paid for most of it, and we got a Kromsky Sonata, which is it's a wheel that's portable. It folds flat and goes in a case, which means it doesn't have to be up in the house all the time. It can be tucked away in the case, and it also makes it easier for travelling for guild. And with some extra money I got for my birthday from my family and Andy's family, I used that money to get a chunk of fibre to spin, like masses of fibre to spin, and I also got a lazy Kate, a Kromsky lazy Kate, which is tensioned, and that's made a big difference, and some extra bobbins. So I sort of was all set up. So I've done basically nothing but spin since I got it in March. And I thought, well, I really shouldn't spend the whole of my first podcast talking about my spinning, because a lot of you don't spin, and I figured you'd probably get bored. So what I'm going to do is just talk about what I've got going on at the minute. I'm not going to show you any of my finished spinning, because there's a mountain of it, and I mean a mountain. It's taken up a huge corner of the room waiting for me to talk about it on the podcast, and it's just getting bigger and bigger. So I'm not going to talk about that. What I am going to talk about is things I've finished in knitting, things I'm working on with knitting, and things I'm working on with spinning at the moment, the current spinning. The idea being that I'll just go ahead from this point forward, and if I have the strength, what I will do is do a sort of spinning special episode where I talk about all the spinning stuff I've done, and then people who are not interested in spinning don't have to watch it and be bored as they plough through all the masses of spinning that I've done. And that way I can keep it separate and stop this being like a 2-hour episode, because I can't talk for 2 hours. I can't do it. So that's my plan. So I guess moving forward, I'll start with the done and dusted. Right, first off, I'm going to talk about my new shawl pattern, which I started to work on right at the beginning of the year. Now, I've actually written up this pattern and it needs to be tested. So if anyone is interested in testing this new pattern, I would love to hear from you. I'll open a thread on the Ravelry board and you can let me know if you're interested, and if you are interested, what yarn you would use. And I'll probably leave it 2 weeks before I let people know who I'm going to choose, because that gives people a chance to watch the episode. And it also gives me a chance to have a look at the final pattern, because I've not looked at it for a long time and I really should look at it before I get people to test it, even though I think I'm okay. So this was the first one I made, and I actually wrote the pattern to use this particular yarn because, as you can see, it's very, very busy yarn. And I haven't named the pattern yet, so if anyone's got any suggestions, let me know. But the yarn is Countess Ablaze Lady Persephone 4-ply in the Eccentric Geeks colourway. And it's a nice sort of elongated crescent, as you can see. It's pretty broad. And the idea being that I wanted a pattern that was quick, simple, easy, and could show off sort of busy yarn in a way where the any stitch pattern didn't get too lost, because I didn't want it to be too complex, but I also wanted it to really show off the yarn. So the idea being that use bits of stocking stitch, bits of garter stitch, bits of lace, just to break things up and to show off the yarn in different ways, because obviously different stitch patterns make different specks of colour highlight in different ways because of the way the light hits it and the way it's broken up into what colour comes next to it. So that's what this shawl pattern was designed to do, and I'm really, really pleased with it. I think it sits really nicely, and I do like this Lady Persephone yarn, and I'm actually doing a project in it at the moment. I think it's 75% BFL, 25% nylon, so it's really hard wearing, but it also has a really nice drape to it, because Blueface Leicester has really nice drape to it, because it's got long strands of fibre, long staple length you call it in spinning. If you're not a spinner, you won't know that staple length is basically from where it's cut next to the body to the tip, like essentially like how long your hair is. So if a staple length is long, then that means it can be more loosely plied, because it's not short ends trying to be knit tightly together, which is what you'd have to do with merino. So it just hangs more elegantly because it's got the longer staple length. It's also got sort of nice luster to it, but I'm just really pleased with how this came out. So that was the first one I did, and to test my own pattern, which I always do before I get it tested, I decided to use the Wool Barn alpaca sock that has been given away as a prize, and I love how it turned out, because this stuff is just delicious. It's so soft and warm. I really, really love it. It's like wearing a feather boa. It's just delicious. And I wanted to do it in a plain colour to show the pattern more clearly, so you could see the stitch pattern, because the busy pattern is fine when you're face to face, but in photographs it doesn't show up as well, which obviously is all anyone can do, because I'm not going to go around and show off the pattern to people in person for them to make a decision on whether they're going to knit it or not. It's all got to be done through photographs. So I wanted to take an opportunity to use a straightforward semi-solid, and I think it works really well in the semi-solid. I think it shows off the pattern really nicely, but I also think it still shows off the yarn really nicely too. So like I say, if you are interested in testing that pattern, let me know. Next up, I have a pair of socks that I finished. I've really stopped knitting socks for some reason. I don't know what it is. I think it's because I've just stopped knitting. I've hardly done any knitting at all. It's all been spinning based. But this pair of socks is in from the yarn is Knitting Goddess, and it's 4-ply merino nylon, and I got it from Fibre East in 2014, and I absolutely love it. It's so nice, this yarn. It's really soft and bouncy and just really sumptuous for a sock yarn, and it's just my basic standard vanilla sock yarn, vanilla sock pattern I should say, that I've been knitting for years, and I'm just really pleased with it. As usual, what I do is I use the opposite end of the skein to knit the heel, so there's no break in the stripes on the front, if you can see. So that was very basic socks, but I really love them. I love this colour. It's just a fantastic colour. Excuse me one second while I get my big bag to put all my stuff in I've got down by my feet, because it's going to be a mountain of stuff. Next up, I have a shawl that I'm very proud of. This shawl has been knit using my Handspun yarn, and it's my own pattern. I don't know if I'm going to write this up because it's pretty straightforward. It's I don't know, let me know if you're interested in it. I can easily write it up and do a test knit quite quickly, I think. It's all Shetland fibre that I spun myself on my spindles, so it was pre spinning wheel days, so quite a lot of spinning was involved. This natural cream colour is actually Jameson and Smith's, which are Shetland wool manufacturers, and it's the roving they use to spin their spindrift yarn, and it's in one of the natural colours. I can't remember which one it is. And I got this from Barber Black Sheep. It's Barber, as in beard trimming. Barber Black Sheep, who is on Etsy, and she had lots of interesting fibres, and this was one of them. And the coloured fibre is from Woolbothy. I used to think that's how you pronounce it. Could be Woolbothy, I don't know. Bothy is B-O-T-H-Y. Is it Bothy? Bothy? I don't know. And the fibre that they sell is from their own sheep, and I think these sheep must be jacketed because the fibre is delicious. And I got this fawn colour and this dark grey, and it's, you wouldn't, if you didn't know for certain it was Shetland, you wouldn't necessarily think it was Shetland because it's so soft. It's just the difference between the spindrift and the Woolbothy is phenomenal. You can't see the difference, I don't think, but the feel of it is incredible. And it's using a traditional old shale lace pattern at the bottom, sort of in this final bit, and it's just really wide and deep, and you can really wrap yourself up in it. And I like the fact it's in natural colours, so it goes with everything. I'm probably going to overheat because it's August in my beautiful shawl. I love it. I'm so proud of it, because it's traditional, but it's got a kind of modern twist to it. I've kind of made it my own, I feel. It's got a feel of the Shetland hap to it, but it's not a hap. So yeah, really pleased with how that came out, and I wear it a lot. And if you've watched episodes before, you'll know that I'm a big fan of Shetland because, excuse me, it's very hard wearing, it's very robust, it softens with every wear, every wash, but it lasts for years. And the more you wear it, the softer it gets, and it's just a beautiful fibre. And I love the fact that it's from the British Isles, and I've got a real belief that sheep grow the fleece that suits the climate. So if you use fibre from a sheep that's grown within your climate area, it's probably going to suit your climate a lot better than other sheep might. That's my theory. I have no scientific basis for that assumption, but it's just something I kind of like the idea of. So that's why I'm going with it. I like the idea, therefore it's true. So I'd be interested to know if there is actually any sort of fact behind that complete assumption on my part. It'd be interesting to know. So moving on from that, I have it's a shawl, but it's really almost a scarf. I actually knit this particular pattern once before in the exact same base. The shawl pattern is Windward by Heidi Kiermaier, and the yarn is Posh Yarn Gretchen Heavy Lace, and the colourway is in the Even He Doesn't Know How He Does It colourway. And this pattern is really good fun. It's crazy. It sort of starts in one corner and it does all these different stockinette, reverse stockinette, garter sections, cast on, cast off, decreases, increases. It's a crazy, crazy pattern. Absolutely love knitting it. And I did it in a sort of really deep purple colour in this particular base, and I gave it to my sister-in-law for a gift. And I was gritting my teeth as I passed it over because I really loved it. But when I saw this particular colourway on Posh Yarn, I just knew I had to get it and make it into this particular pattern. And I love it. It's just so wearable. It's just, because it's a heavy lace, it's very lightweight, and I think it's 55% BFL, 45% silk. So it's got great drape. It's so soft. It's so light. It's just really quirky and interesting, and it's a fabulously fun pattern. And you don't really have to think an awful lot as long as you kind of keep track occasionally. And Posh Yarn is been a huge favourite of mine for really a very long time. And for a long time, Posh Yarn kind of specialised in really interesting semi-solids. There weren't many variegated skeins available on the shop. And in the last 6 months or so, Tony, the dyer behind Posh Yarns, has been experimenting with his dyeing techniques, and a lot of the yarns he's been producing have been these really wildly, highly variegated, bright colourways. And it's quite brave of them to sort of step out from their traditional market in a way, from the sort of really beautiful quality bases with really elegant semi-solids, which is what a lot of their yarns were, into things like this. And I think they made the right decision, because they are still selling their semi-solids, but they're also bringing these really, really interesting colourways. And I really, really like them. So I'm really pleased with how this came out. I think it's a really nice, lightweight kind of spring, autumn kind of shawlette rather than a winter one, because it's very, very light, very delicate. And I'm really, really pleased with how that came out. I do recommend the pattern, also really recommend the yarn. So after that little one, we have, this is another Handspun, and the yarn was spun from Superwash Merino from Countess Ablaze. And this is where I work out which is the right side and the wrong side. The shawl pattern is Bad Nut by Josh Ricks, who is sort of a knitter. And I'd been looking for something to use, a pattern to use this yarn for, because it was yarn that I spun from a Christmas gift from my brother and sister-in-law. My sister-in-law is a big fan of Countess Ablaze, even though she doesn't spin or knit. And she basically uses my birthdays and Christmas as an excuse to go shopping on the Countess Ablaze store. She really likes the colours, and these ones, they're two different colours, but I use 3 braids, and I I don't know, I can't remember. I think it's a DK weight. And I'd been looking for a long time for the right pattern for this, and then Josh brought out this pattern, and I think it was the same day I saw it go live. I was like, that would be perfect, and I was right. I think it's perfect. It's a really, really nice broad shawl. I do like my wide shawls, as you may guess, because I have broad shoulders and big boobs, and I need a lot of yardage to go around the front. And I'm just really pleased with it, and it was a really, really fun knit, and I would quite happily knit another one. So again, another great pattern, and I think it works really well with the handspun because it's not too busy. It's all done with simple texture changes with garter and stocking stitch and eyelets, and I think it's really pretty. I really, really enjoyed knitting it, and I think it's a great pattern. So well done, Josh. I'm pretty sure you don't watch the podcast, but it's a good pattern. I do recommend it. So moving on from that, we have another one, another shawl. I've been doing a lot of shawl knitting because it's easy, it's simple, it's straightforward. And this is kind of fabulous. The pattern is called Soundwave, and that was designed by Megan Jackson, and it's a little bit crazy. It starts off at this end, and so there's increases, decreases, simple lace patterns. So all done in garter stitch, even the lace, and it just gets wider and wider and wider until it gets to the end, and you basically have this nice broad end, which means you can sort of wrap. It's great for going underneath a coat because you've got this nice broad section that will fit under the front of a coat and keep you nice and warm away from any drafts that come in the front of your coat, which is what I have to deal with because I have a sort of a V at the front of my coat. It doesn't button all the way up to the top. So it's ideal for that. The yarn I used is fondant fibre, and it's her, which base is it? Hardy High Twist, which is amazing. I love knitting with this base. I think it's 80% merino, 20% nylon, and a high twist. I may be wrong about that. Look at the show notes, and there'll be a link to the project page. And the grey is gunpowder. It's a fantastic neutral base colourway. I love it. And the sort of maroony colour is Shield Maiden Wannabe, which I think is fantastic, and I really, really love that colourway too. I think it's fabulous. It's got these little specks of green in amongst the purple and little pops of orangey peachy colour. It's just gorgeous. And again, this is a really fun pattern to knit. I really enjoyed it. I'm really pleased with how that turned out, and I really, really like that base, and I definitely think I'll be buying some more of it because I think it'd be great as a sock yarn. I think it would be tough enough for a sock yarn. And my bag of stuff just fell over. Hang on a sec. Oh dear. You should see the chaos that is surrounding me. It's just bedlam because I've been throwing stuff here, there and everywhere looking for all the various bits that I've piled up over the last few months. So I think, what's next? Knit Night. Now this pattern, I've had my own for quite a while, is by Louise Zaspangham, and the yarn I used was Baby Long Legs BFL nylon in the Lalique colourway, and I adore this yarn. Absolutely adore it. It's just my perfect colourway. Purples, greens and blues. It's just delicious. And it's a really, really straightforward pattern. And all these little picots around the edges have got beads on. Let me see if I can hold it still enough for you to see. There we go. Really pretty purpley metallic beads, and they go really perfectly with this yarn. I had the beads before I bought the yarn, but I love this so much, and I definitely think I'll be knitting another one, because it's another pattern that's ideal for showing off really lovely yarn, and the beads just really make it, because it just makes it hang and settle so nicely around your neck. I really enjoyed knitting it, and I think it's really beautiful as well. I like the way the light is not great. I do apologise. Of course, there's a breeze now, which is making it swing. It's all right, but I do love baby long legs, as you know, if you've watched any of my podcasts before. And when I saw this particular skein of yarn go up, I was just like, I have to have it, because it was just so beautiful. And I'm a big fan of BFL. It's sort of gorgeous drape, very soft. It feels elegant when you wear it, because the way it drapes. So I'm really pleased with that. It's a really good pattern, and I'll definitely be knitting it again. Knit Night by Louise Zasbangham. And what have we got left? Second pile. This is quite a recent finish, and again, I'm trying to work out which way the right way around is. This pattern is Bella Vista, and it's by Anthony Casalena, or Casalena. I don't know how you pronounce it, I'm afraid, but I follow him on Instagram, and I saw this pattern and I thought it'd be perfect for Handspun, and I think I'm right. I think it's worked beautifully with Handspun, because all these lovely short row transitions, I think it makes it look like a seascape with the golden orange as the beach and the sand dunes and the sea. I just think it looks great. And the yarn is Handspun, and it's Rambouillet, and it's from Hello Yarn in the Anne colourway. And I love Rambouillet so much. It's just so soft, so soft. I really enjoyed knitting this, and it's big enough for you to wrap it around your shoulders to sort of keep your shoulders warm on a cool summer evening, or you can wear it like I'm wearing it now and sort of use it to fill the gap at the top of your coat, your jacket. And I really enjoyed knitting it. It was great fun, and I shared it on Instagram, and Anthony saw it and shared it because he really liked it, which I always like it when a designer or a dyer likes what you've done with their work. Always makes you feel a bit kind of, oh, you like my stuff. So yeah, I'm really pleased with how this came out. I really love knitting with my Handspun. It's one of my favourite things to do now. So one of the things I try and do is keep an eye out for patterns that I see that could work for Handspun yarn. So another Handspun project is this cowl, is called Ingot, and it's by Lisa Much, who is Northbound Knitting, if you recognise the name. And I love this pattern so much. It's just really chunky if you have it like this, or if you have it just, can sort of almost wear it, keep your head warm as well as your neck in the cool or whatever. You can just have it open and keep your shoulders warm like that. So the yarn again is Handspun, and it's from Spun Right Round, Targi, and this is one of her colour play colourways, which are ones that she doesn't repeat, unfortunately. They're just, she uses whatever dyes she's got lying around and just plays, and I just love how it turned out. And I think again this pattern is great for Handspun yarn. It really shows it off nicely, I think, because it's got nice simple lines, doesn't break things up too much, and the the lace doesn't get lost in the handspun, which sometimes lace can do because it's such simple lace. I'm really pleased with how that came out. Targi is another base I really enjoy knitting, enjoy spinning with and enjoy knitting with, and you don't really get it in this country, sadly. So next up, Nose to the Grindstone. I felt like an awful lot of talking. It was an awful lot of talking. I've been rambling for 40 minutes. No wonder my throat is dry. Excuse me 1 second. I'm not used to talking like this anymore. Okay. Nose to the Grindstone. Let me start with a great big project that I just ground to a massive halt on a few weeks ago. The pattern is Sandbank, and the designer is Leah Victoria, and the yarn I'm using is Vollmeister lace yarn, which come in huge 300-gram skeins, and this is a weird different colourway, and it's Grauer Eminez, I think. Look at the show notes, it's spelt there. So the wee different ones are the ones that don't quite turn out the way they're supposed to. They're in the repeatable colourways, because most of the Vollmeister colourways are repeatable, but sometimes things happen. Sometimes water is slightly different, or the sun affects things, the moon, the stars, you know, things done in alignment and things just don't look the same. And this is one of them, which is why it's called We're Different. And I got this on a D-stash, and I really love the purple and the grey, dark grey. And the pattern is a big shawl, and it's really hard to show on a single circular needle because it just bags up. But essentially it's a elongated crescent, but it's knit in the round. So it means you just knit stocking stitch all the way around, and it's really straightforward and really simple. There's only a few interesting increases and decreases until you get to the border around the edge, and that's why I've ground to a halt, because the border is done in a 22 stitch repeat, and it's adding adding stitches, so it takes it up to like 40, like doubles the stitch count, but it's done in a really random way, and it's really hard to keep track of. So I've done one edge, and then I sort of went, oh, I can't do the next edge, it's just too hard, and it's sat in my bag for about a month now, and I really need to get back to it, because I really want the shawl, because it's a great big swoopy shawl, which is a really nice weight, and I really love my lace yarn stole that I've got, and I wear it an awful lot, especially in the summer instead of a cardigan. So I'm kind of running out of time to get use out of this, but I've still got this amount left to do the edging, because basically the edging is kind of complicated ribbing. It's very complicated. So as a recommendation for the pattern, I would say either change the edging or get ready to sort of like sit in the quiet and count until it's set up, because once it's set up it's not too bad, but it's setting it up which is a bit tricky, because there's a really high stitch count and you've got these really big repeats that you need to keep track of. So that's why I've sort of ground to a halt on that score. Next up, I've got Groovy, which is a pattern I've had my eye on for quite a while, so I really like the way it looks. And it's the one I've chosen to do is in lace weight yarn. And as much as I love lace weight shawls, they tend to get a bit battered. So I've kind of got a lot of lace weight that hasn't been used recently, so I'm making a conscious effort to actually use some of my lace weight yarn, because it's just wrong for it to sit, not get used. So this one I felt was a good pattern, because it's meant to be worn kind of like a shawlette, the idea being it's worn like that. And the yarn is the Yarn Yard, and it's Pentland 800. And the Yarn Yard, I'm not sure as if she's doing yarn anymore. She took some time off with ill health, and then she decided to write a book. So it'd be nice if Natalie started dyeing yarn again, because I do like her yarn and I really like her colour sense. And she's another one who does lots of semi-solids, and really like this. What colourway is it? I can't remember. Toffee, which is very appropriate. And it's camel and silk blend, and it's so soft and light, and I really need to get around to knitting it, but it's done on 2mm needles. This is why it's taking me so long. It's been on my needles for months because it's so fiddly knitting lace on 2mm needles. Not lace, but actual lace weight. It's just tricky. Probably better if I just bought a new needle, because the joins catch just here. There's a little notch where it joins and it just catches on there. So what I should do is just buy some new needles, and then I'd probably zoom through. It's really annoying to have to constantly kind of feed over the stitches over that little join, but it's the only sort of long 2mm needle cable I've got. Having said that, have you seen the new Chowgu interchangeable sets, which actually go down to 2mm needles? Have you seen those? I think they call it the mini set. I was so tempted to get that until I saw the price and went, oink. It's like 70 quid for this set, I think. I'm not spending that just to get a few needles. However, I might splash out and maybe get just the 2mm needle set, because I do use those. But I think it'll be fantastic when it's finished. The pattern Groovy is by Jumper Cables, and she has two patterns. There's the lace and fingering weight, and then I think there's the deep sport DK worsted one. But essentially I think it's the same pattern, so I think it just clarifies stitch counts and yarn amounts and things. So the next thing I've got, I just cast on a few days ago, and it's called Shine by Janina Callio, and I really like Janina's patterns a lot. She does a lot of really straightforward, interesting textures and shapes and things, usually quite simple lace. So she had a special offer on. I don't know if it's still going on, but it was buy two patterns, get a third for free. So I decided to buy some of the favourites from my queue, and that were in her pattern selection. And one of the ones I bought was this Shine pattern, and it's uses 2 skeins of fingering weight, and it's sort of bias. So this is the end. So a sort of stole which is knit on the bias. So I just started a few days ago, and the yarn I'm using is Countess Ablaze Lady Persephone Sock again, which is the BFL nylon mix, and the colourway is Girl at the Rock Show. Now I'm alternating every 2 rows for this particular colourway because they were dyed at different times, because I wanted to have 2 skeins after I bought the first one, because I wanted to make something a decent size from it, because I just love the colours. Let's see if I can see more clearly what the colours are like. So I didn't want to have a sort of a straight line in the middle of the stole where you could see 2 different skeins, because they were quite different, the dye lots. Let's see if I can show you. It's hard to. I think you can see that one. This one's a sort of a bit warmer in colour, a bit more saturated than this one. This one's, the green is more yellow, and a sort of more orange in this one. So that's why I'm alternating every 2 rows. And it's a really nice, simple, straightforward pattern, which is exactly what I was looking for. And I do really like sort of stole. So when it'll be blocked out, it'll be about yay wide. So it's a decent width. I think, again, because it's BFL, it'll drape really nicely. and it'll work as a scarf stole type idea. So I only started that the other day because I finished off another pattern which has yet to be blocked, so I'll show that in the next episode when it's all finished, even though I'm not working on it sort of really at the minute. It's kind of in limbo while it waits to be blocked. And blocking involves crawling around on my hands and knees, which is why it's not been done yet. So the spinning I'm currently working on is Countess Blaze, and I've got 2 bobbin, that's the colour, 2 bobbins of BFL Masham and 50/50, and I really like the yarn I got, which was spun in this particular proportion, and it's a really nice DK weight, and I really love knitting with it. It's a real buttery feel to it. So when I saw the fibre come up on the store, I just had to have it. So I got this one, which is Bad But Girls Club, and another one which is in a really nice rich navy, and I'm not going to work them together because I don't think they'll necessarily work together, but I really wanted to make sure I got as much on my hands as much as possible because I really wanted to spin it, and really did enjoy spinning this. I think it'll be great when it's all plied up. It's got real nice luster to it, but it's also kind of warm and very easy to spin because it's got this nice long staple, and it's got a really nice luster to it. You can see the way it catches the light. So just got to ply that up and then block it and what have you. And that is it for Nose the Grindstone. So what I'm up to plotting next. The main thing I'm plotting is a big spinning project. And this bag has ripped open. Let me show you it. Sorry about the crinkling. Now, you might think, oh, that colour looks quite familiar. That's because it's the same colour, dark grey, Shetland, that I used in my shawl that I knit from my Handspun. And this fibre is from Woolbothy. And I've wanted to get my hands on more of their fibre for a long time, and I kept checking back to the Etsy store and it just wasn't there. And the Facebook page just directed you to the Etsy store. And then I saw by accident there was an eBay store. And there was quite a bit on my eBay store. There isn't at the moment. I don't know if it's because they've sold it all or whether they're on holiday or they've got so much going on over the summer. I don't know. But I managed to get 800 grams of this stuff. And it is beautiful. It's just, let's see if I can, it's top, which is when it's all combed. So all the fibres are all elongated. So it's all straight and neat, and it's just so soft. Let's see if I can. It's just beautiful, just so soft. You would never know it was Shetland. It's just, but it smells so sheepy. You can, and it's definitely got quite a lot of the lanolin still in it, because when you can feel the kind of butteriness of it when you touch it. But there's like no vegetable matter in it at all. There's no bits of hay or anything, which means I think they've been jacketed, these sheep. I really do, because there's just nothing in it that isn't gorgeous fibre. And if you want to knit, if you want to spin really good Shetland, I really recommend it because it's just perfection. So my plotting is obviously to spin up 800 grams and knit a jumper, because I've never spun enough yarn to knit a jumper, but because I got the spinning wheel, which is much faster to spin on, I think I can do it. I think I can spin a jumper and knit a jumper. Spin to knit, spin enough yarn to knit into a jumper. Brain fry. So the other thing, obviously, that I thought about is the spin along I've done for the last 2 years. And I did it in September, and we're coming up to September. And I was thinking maybe you guys would like to join me in doing some spinning in September. What do you think? You interested in doing a spin along? Bearing in mind that I will never ever let it go as long as it has been to send out prizes. Promise. Promise it will never happen again. Absolutely promise. So I'm just really, really delighted with that fibre, because I think it'll make a fantastic neutral jumper. I think it will be a very, very wearable jumper. And I haven't decided whether I'm going to spin it woolen or worsted, because the shawl I did was spun woolen. What I did was I used the top and I laid it out on my blending board and made row lags and then spun it woolen. So it's kind of, I think it's semi-woolen when it's from worsted preparation but spun long draw. I think that's the way it's categorized on Ravelry. So it's just so easy to spin long draw from a row lag. It's just the simplest thing in the world. So kind of tempted to do that, but then again I'm kind of tempted to see what it's like spun worsted. So it's all very sleek and straight and nothing fuzzy. I think that could also work really nicely. So I'm going to do some sampling and see what I come up with, because I think it either would work really well. If it was done woolen spun, it would be very lightweight, very warm, and if it was spun worsted, it would be a much neater, sleeker appearance. So I think either way could work. So I shall sample and see what happens, and let me know if you fancy doing a spin along in September. Right, next up, splashed out. Now, most of my splashed out over the last few months has been fibre, but I have got some yarn to show you as well as fibre. So I've kind of broken it up into 2 batches. I've got one batch to show you this episode, and I'll do another batch next episode. So one of the first things I want to show you was a direct result of the decision made in the referendum to leave the EU, which made me really, really, really sad, because I like being a European. I like being considered part of Europe, and quite proud of the fact I live in Leicester, which is one of the only places outside London that wanted to remain within the European Union. And sadly, a lot of the politics that helped people make the decision to leave were very underhanded. There was a lot of misleading information given out, and I think people have realised that they've been lied to now. But it's just, the whole thing made me really, really sad. And I know there are probably people watching this podcast who don't agree with my political views and probably don't believe we should be in Europe. But me personally, I was brought up, didn't know any other time other than being a European citizen. I grew up being in Europe. I don't remember any other time. And for me, that's how my experience. I don't have any nostalgic views of what life was like before being in the EU. And I also don't have any real negative connotations about being in EU, though I do believe that a lot of other people have maybe different expectations and experiences of being in the EU. This is my personal view, and it made me sad. And as a direct result of that, I had to go and buy some yarn from Germany while I still could without paying import duties. So I went to Wollmeister, or Rohrspatz und Wollmeister, and I bought a skein of pure in the, okay, I can't pronounce this, Zavel und Rossi colourway. It's got this amazing grey into purple and fuchsia. It's just stunning. I really, really love this colourway, and I'd never seen it before actually on the shop available. So when I saw it, I had to get it. And the other thing I had to get was another skein of lace yarn, because I am currently working on my only skein of lace yarn. Apparently I seem to have a need to always hold a skein of lace yarn in my stash. So what I decided to do was get this really, really nice, warm, neutral grey brown colour. In fact, it's very similar colour. It's a bit more grey than the Shetland. The idea being that a really nice neutral will go with everything. And I don't have enough neutral shawls, certainly not enough big neutral shawls, but I think this colourway would go with everything. And it's Feldmausen, or field mouse, and this lovely sort of grey fawn colour. It's beautiful. Really love it. So yeah, that cost me an arm and a leg to for being completely emotional response to the referendum results. That was completely emotional response. I spent money on that, but I can't begrudge it because it's gorgeous yarn. I love it, and it's a real enhancement for my stash, is that yarn. So the colours are beautiful and the bases are beautiful, because the bases of the yarn, though they're different weights, they are exactly the same sort of fibre composition. The next thing I bought recently is from Eden Cottage Yarns, and aren't those colours fantastic together? The green one is algae and the brown one is dark oak, and it's in the Pendle 4-ply base, and it's 100% superwash merino, and it's 400 meters from 100 gram skeins. And I just love the way that I've been wanting to get this algae colourway for a very long time, because I love this yellowy green. I think it's a colour that suits me. And then I saw the dark oak, which is another colourway I'd wanted to get my hands on, because I think it's a really gorgeous contrast colour. And I think those two go amazingly well together, and I really, really want to knit a 2-colour shawl from that. I just think that looks amazing. It's a really, really gorgeous colour combo. So yeah, splashed out on that quite big style as well. So the last thing I wanted to show you was some fibre that I got this week. And the fibre is from Fondant Fibre, one of my favourites. And this is Secret Garden, this colourway, and this one is Alpine. They're not to go together. I just really, really liked both colourways. I have already got one of these in my stash that I bought about a month ago. And once I got it home, I was like, I must have more of that colourway if I see it. And it's just beautiful. I love it. The sort of the purples, you can't really see the purple. There's purple in there, and green and turquoise and yellow. It's just fantastic. And this one, I just fell in love with the colours. They're beautiful. And it's Rambouillet. First time I've ever seen Rambouillet dyed by a UK indie dyer. Now, I love Rambouillet. I mean, look at the bounce on that. And it's so, so bouncy. And it's soft, but it's got, one of the reasons I love it, it's got more bite than merino. It's also got more bounce than merino. It's more like a Polworth. If you've come across Polworth before, you're more likely to have come across it before if you're in the UK. But when I saw Deb had got Rambouillet on her store, I was like, must buy. And I've since seen World of Wool has the undyed Rambouillet. You can buy undyed Rambouillet for spinning off World of Wool. And I'm very tempted to get a sweater's worth of Rambouillet to spin, because I just love spinning it so much. And it's just really, really lovely fibre to wear, because it's so soft and light. So I wanted to share that with you if you're in the UK or even just in Europe at the moment, because apparently the British pound's quite weak at the moment. So if you're in Europe, you could probably do quite well getting something from Fondant Fibre in the UK. But I love Rambouillet. It's so much fun to spin, and it's a really lovely fibre to wear next to your skin. At the same time as I bought that, I bought packet of Rolags from Deb, because she does the best Rolags. And this is called Timothy, and it's Shetland, alpaca and mulberry silk, and I just couldn't resist. Again, it's these gorgeous natural undyed fibres that I really do enjoy spinning and then knitting. I think they make great neutrals because they're undyed and they go with so many things, and I'm definitely enjoying spinning up these undyed fibres. So if you ever want to try Rolex, try Deb's, because they are beautifully prepared. They are an absolute dream to spin from. Where am I? That's all I wanted to talk about in Splashed Out. Finally, I just wanted to say thank you so much for your patience and waiting for me to come back. And I have missed you guys, and I've had lots of support from everybody, and I've had lots of messages, I've had lots of conversations on the Ravelry board, and people have been really supportive and understanding of why my father's health has a direct impact on my health and why I've not been really engaging much. The other thing I wanted to say was we had a very generous donation made by an anonymous donator, an anonymous viewer who has donated in the past. In fact, she donated the Uncommon Thread yarn that we gave away as a prize earlier in the episode, and she sent me an enormous box of yarn and fibre. So the gift pile, the prize pile, has been replenished. So that's one of the reasons I want to do a spin along, because we have some fibre to give away, and that would be nice to give some of that away because there's some really nice fibre in that. So what I'm going to do is over the next couple of weeks is going to dive in that prize pile, pull out some stuff, have a think about whether I want to do the spin along. I think I probably do, because it's only a month long. It's usually from the 1st to the 30th of September. And it's only 100 grams to spin, so I think most people will be able to do that. So that's my plan. And I just want to say really thank you so much to the very kind donator. I'm so sorry that I've not been recording since you sent me the box. It hasn't been touched apart from the things I told you I was going to touch, and those gifts, that gift will make amazing prizes over the next year. So thank you so much for your generous donation. It's very kind of you, and I think everyone will enjoy sharing in your generosity. So on that note, I think I should say farewell, because my throat is about to give up. You might have noticed the volume has been decreasing. I do apologise. So what I'm going to do now is do my uploads, do my edits, and do my conversions, and hopefully get it online by tomorrow. And in the meantime, thank you so much for your support and your patience, and I really hope not too many of you have left in the interim, and you'll just get a nice surprise when the episode pops up in your subscriptions. So take care, and I'll speak to you again soon. Bye.